Hi there. You're listening to Unnatural Selection, the show about newsy type stuff and things. My name is George.
My name is Tom.
And my name is Adam.
And with our powers combined, we are Unnatural Selection. Make sure you visit us at our salubrious home on the web, unnaturalshow.com.
He's back. He's back, fresh off his illness. We've got those smooth, dulcet tones.
Just to play a little jazz behind me when I enter behind me as I enter the show. Listening to 97.1 Smooth FM.
I saw in your little, you sent us a little message of a picture of some home remedies there. There was some red liquid. There was some yellow liquid.
That was a Barocca.
That was a Barocca.
The yellow was urine. I don't know. Okay. I don't remember what the yellow one was. I think that might have been tea, lemon and ginger tea, probably.
Oh, right.
You don't self-urine test?
I do, but not for medical purposes. That's just for pure enjoyment.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
it's sterile and I like the taste.
It makes you feel like an alchemist.
Uh-huh.
It's like, ooh, colored liquids.
Yes.
That's what alchemy is, right?
Sure. Various
colored liquids.
Beakers of varying lengths. Yeah.
Yep. Okay, good. Totally. Because I don't care to find out.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of
been a big
caring
week
to find out. Yeah, I don't know. Oh God. Yeah, we're fucking this. Start over.
This is great.
This is dog shit. This is.
Hi there. You're listening to Unnatural Selection, the show about newsy type stuff and things. My name is George.
Are we seriously doing this? My name is Tom.
My name is Adam.
And with our powers combined, we are Unnatural Selection. Make sure you visit us at our salubrious home on the web, unnaturalshow.com. It's a news and politics podcast. First story, top story. Brittany Higgins. Bruce Lehrmann was found to have raped Brittany Higgins in the defamation case that he launched some time ago. The judgment came down on Monday, or like immediately after us, you guys recording late on Sunday. And it just seems like the universe conspires sometimes to make us late for stories, because I'm sure everyone's heard this is like 6-day-old news now.
Yeah.
Yeah, we haven't really got our fingers on the pulse in that regard.
To be fair, we do record generally on a Sunday evening, which is before the week starts.
That is peak news time. Okay, Sunday afternoons is when all the news is happening, you know?
Well, it's a really tricky balance, because by the end of the week on Sunday, you've got all the facts of everything that's probably happened up to that point. Unfortunately, whole new facts are ready to go Monday morning.
And if you're lucky and you're broadcasting on a weekend, you know, you might be the first to break some sort of mass death event that happens at a shopping center, for example, and that would be incredibly good fortune for a podcaster, one would imagine.
No, but
so, not George, so good for the people, obviously, being terrorized. But
even last weekend we stuffed that, because that happened on a Saturday, so all that news broke on a Saturday afternoon, and then the stabbing terrorism-y event happened on the Monday, so we were like right smack between
stabbings,
knife-related disasters. So. Yeah, no, we couldn't have done that worse.
Poor timing on your part, I think.
Really poor timing. My timing was not being in the center when the stabbing happened. I was at that center that day, just not when it happened. So that was great timing on my part.
Did you get a look at the bollards? Were there any good bollards in there that you could potentially fend off a murderer with?
I guess we've all seen the footage, so yeah, there were a couple.
I did go to Chadstone.
Yeah. Oh, you did? Yes.
I did go to Chadstone the day afterwards, and let me tell you, the security guards were more alert than usual.
A little bit tense. A little bit tense out the front of the Connor, the Tara Cash on that day for whatever reason.
I did walk past, like one of those Gucci stores upstairs, and I was like, yeah, that's a bollard. Yeah, I could use that. I know the bollards have been used to effect in the past, and that is probably a good size.
And if you're lucky, if you use a bollard correctly, you might get Australian citizenship, unless, of course, you're Pakistani, in which case, don't worry about it. So did you guys hear about this? Okay, so obviously, terrible, awful stabbing.
So we're not talking about Bruce Lehrmann at all?
But we'll get back to Bruce Lehrmann. Bruce Lehrmann's not going anywhere, okay? You stay right there, Bruce. So obviously terrible, awful, news about the stabbings. And just like it was Australia became like a national news story because of a mass violence event, which is like not a thing that happens really. Generally, we rely on America for that. what with their preponderance of guns. So it was a national news story and an international news story, in fact. And there was this whole furore because the gentleman who was defending people with the bollard very heroically was immediately thereafter offered Australian, I don't think it was citizenship, but I think it was permanent residency.
They said we'll fast track your visa application is basically what they said.
You defended Australian citizens, like that's the kind of people we want in Australia. Here's Australian citizenship. It then came up that another person.
He was French, that guy?
He was French. As such, a white-looking person. One of the other people, I believe it was a Pakistani security guard who was injured defending people. Well, people said, what about this guy? And Peter Dutton was not so keen on that particular person for whatever reason. We'll never know the interiority of Peter Dutton's mind. Certainly that sounds like a scary place that no human person would ever willingly want to go, is to the inside of Peter Dutton's mind. But they ended up offering that gentleman expedited residency
Peter
as well,
Dutton,
from what I understand.
Peter Dutton would just be commenting on it, right? It's the Albanese.
Sure, it's got nothing to do with Peter Dutton, but Peter Dutton was like, French guy, give him residency. And then they asked him about the Pakistani guy. He's like, whoa, slow down, Lois. This isn't my Batman glass. What's the difference between the two? One can only wonder.
Yes, Albo immediately painted himself into a corner with that one. Seeming like, yep, I'll do a good thing for that heroic man. It's like, yep, oh boy. Yeah, this isn't going to come back to bite you if you don't also then stick to the principle. It was real bad.
It's bad. Australia is we're like a racist country, but it's like fun racists. You know, it's like racists you can get a beer with.
Well, in that we have a large propensity to drink a lot of beer. I mean,
we're all alcoholics. Yes.
Yeah. If you're drinking a beer with an Australian, odds are it's with a racist person. Is that
and an alcoholic? Yeah. No, I think we're saying the same thing.
Oh, great. Okay. Awesome.
Speaking of alcoholics, to get back to our own,
allegedly
story. Allegedly. Well,
I saw someone tweeted something about Bruce Lehrmann and said, I was walking past Bruce Lehrmann on the street and I said, oh my God, you dropped this. As just a photo of a Post-it note that says allegedly on it.
It's a good game.
So on the balance of probabilities, Bruce Lehrmann was found to have raped Brittany Higgins in Parliament House some years ago in 2019. So if you're wondering, what does it mean that a judge said that? So this is a civil trial. So Channel 10 is being sued for defamation because of the interview that they aired on The Project with Lisa Wilkinson, where Brittany Higgins talked about her sexual assault. And although they didn't name Bruce Lehrmann, there were enough identifying details that people could figure out who it is. And so he alleges based on that it was defamation of his character. Now, what...
and the justice actually did say that he agreed that even though he wasn't identified by name, that he was identifiable
based on the interview, which is neither here nor there. I very much doubt internet sleuths going and Bellingcat style trying to identify satellite photographs to figure out who are the amount of people who heard the thing based on the amount of people who would have put it together that it was Bruce Lehrmann being identified. I think that's a very slim number of people, but anyway. So because this is separate to the criminal trial, the criminal trial against Bruce Lehrmann was dropped. Now in a criminal trial, it's based on beyond a reasonable doubt.
The old classic that we all know from all the movies.
Yes. So it has to be the jury has to basically, or the judge or whoever it is in that case, needs to decide that there's more or less no other way it could have been anyone else, right? It's a pretty high standard of proof. Whereas in a civil trial, it's a balance of probabilities, which is to say, given the evidence in front of me, is it more likely or not that this person committed this offense? Now, that doesn't translate into criminal responsibility, as in Bruce Lehrmann doesn't go to jail, but it does mean that a lot of news outlets really loved loudly, declaratively stating that Bruce Lehrmann was a rapist. And so the quote from Justice Lee is, Mr. Lehrmann raped Miss Higgins. I hasten to stress this is a finding on the balance of probabilities, which is what we just talked about there. Mr. Lehrmann has now been found at the civil standard of proof to engage in a great wrong. It follows Miss Higgins has been proven to be a victim of sexual assault.
And, oh man, did Justice Lee did he have a thesaurus and a dream?
Yes.
Because holy cow! Like
I'm also working on a novel. I don't know if Simon and Schuster or Random House is listening, but I got ideas. Okay.
The judgment went for like 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
And full of some very like affluent language, which judges, love to do. I know there's
affluent or effluent.
Both.
That was a word joke.
Right.
Effluent.
I was like, wait, did I use the wrong one?
Effluent is poo.
Oh, okay, great. Awesome. See, I was like, wait, have I totally mixed up those words?
You can still have affluent.
The jokes are better when you explain. Yeah, well, most affluence is effluence disguised, I've found. Smart talking.
But Justice Lee was not happy with anyone involved. It seemed to be. He was scathing to pretty much every party in the way that a judge can be, like calling, I think both Bruce and Brittany like bad witnesses, like either Bruce Lehrmann like not trustworthy and all these sorts of things, and just like really slamming them as people taking part in this process, and of Lisa Wilkinson to be saying like, sure, your legal team vetted that speech you made, which was how she got dragged into this beyond as well, that she did a speech at the Logies while the criminal trial was going on, saying, yes, your legal team let you down by saying that you should be allowed to do that, and your 40 years of journalistic experience should have told you better. I was like, oh, shit.
Yeah. So, quote, I consider it more likely than not in those early hours after a long night of conviviality and drinking and having successfully brought Miss Higgins back to a secluded place, Mr. Lehrmann was hell-bent on having sex with a woman he A, found sexually attractive, B, had been mutually passionately kissing and touching, C, had encouraged to drink, and D, knew had reduced inhibitions because she was very drunk. Adding, having escaped the lion's den, and this is in regards to launching defamation proceedings. Having escaped the lion's den, Mr. Lehrmann made the mistake of coming back for his hat. And saying he would have gotten away with it too if it weren't for those rascally kids and their stupid dog.
Yeah. It's so in this case here, the truth defense that Channel 10 went with has prevailed.
Substantial truth, I think, is what it's called.
I believe now Brittany Higgins has been given some compensation as part of this arrangement. I read that a headline somewhere.
I didn't hear about that.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know if they've done the actual money part yet.
Yeah.
Generally, if you lose a civil case like this, you would need to pay costs for the other party. So maybe it's that. Yeah. I don't know.
It might be a different, because there is a few different proceedings going on with Ms. Higgins, as far as I'm aware.
Well, she wasn't a party. See, the parties were.
She was just a witness.
She was a witness.
Bruce Lehrmann and Channel 10. So yeah, I don't know what she would have gotten out of it necessarily.
Maybe it was a private deal between something else. I don't know. I read a headline. Whether or not that headline was.
I read a headline.
Is another line. I
read a headline. So I
read a headline.
Research, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, nailed it.
I heard something. I'm hearing, like Trump said, I'm hearing lots of people are saying. Very good. So yeah, that doesn't really put an end to the Bruce Lehrmann saga, as there will be. There's the civil case between what's the name and Linda Reynolds and Brittany Higgins. I was going to use an expletive about Linda Reynolds, but given that she has proven herself to be somewhat litigious, I might refrain from doing that. It's just holding my affluence back, using my affluence. Affluence is rich, by the way. It's not necessarily wordy, but anyway, that's neither
rich language. Let's
Yeah, okay, I'll allow it, but watch yourself, counselor. So there's that whole case that still needs to happen with Linda Reynolds and Brittany Higgins. So yeah, this is far from over, and certainly, from what I understand, the Department of Public Prosecutions could resume the criminal case against Bruce Lehrmann at any time. He also has an unrelated Toowoomba case, which I think this judgment might prejudice that case ever so slightly. That's just my completely unbiased, non-legal opinion over here, is that if you hear a judge saying this guy was, quote, hell-bent on having sex with Miss Higgins, whether she liked it or not, that might prejudice me as if I
I wonder whether or not the evidence that was called in last minute from the former Channel 7 producer ended up like having any weight in this decision. Do you know what I mean? Like they called
certainly
it in,
didn't make him Bruce Lehrmann look good. Like, you know, tight Botox friendly Geordies, you know, had a lot of truth bombs to drop, but it didn't really impact whether Bruce Lehrmann was defamed or not. I guess the argument that you could say that they were going with is that in order to defame someone, you need to have substantially lowered their character in the public eye. And if it turns out the guy's character was not that good to begin with, then that could be another argument that you could use to level it. But it seems like that wasn't the key.
But a lot of that
part of the judgment. It's more to do with like, was the thing they said about him true? Well, we find that it was. That's basically what they're saying here.
Because what I brought up on
whether he was a shit bloke doing coke off strippers' tits is besides the point.
Yeah, because what I brought up last episode was that we are only learning of that information now, not at the point that his character may or may not be defamed.
Yeah, as far as we knew back then, he wasn't a shit bloke. So, if we find out he was a shit bloke now, does that really make a difference? I don't know.
And as well, I mean, the judgment came down pretty quickly after the case was reopened and they heard that evidence. So that would lead me to believe, I don't think Justice Lee rewrote much. Sort of like, you know, because he was going to deliver the judgment that week originally. And then they delayed it so they could hear more evidence. So he had something in the can. And for him to then do the judgment this soon after hearing all that new evidence, I don't think he pulled many all-nighters to rewrite what he wrote, right?
Throw the rundown out.
Yeah, he had some bangers. I think one of my personal favorites being on the part of the story that Bruce brought up to say that he wanted to go back to Parliament House to get his keys because...
Or he was there to work on submarine something or other, which wasn't due for a week and a half, which is some weird lie.
There was like that he wanted to go back and retrieve his keys, and there was a whole thing about he couldn't just call his then girlfriend who lived in the apartment to like let him in. It's difficult to get into the building.
About that. That was like new news to me that he was actually in a relationship, which makes it even worse. But it's
But
well, it explains why he couldn't go back to his house, why they went to Parliament House, right?
Yeah.
But he was saying he needed his keys to get in the building because it's difficult to get into their apartment building and he didn't want to bother her that late at night. To which Justice Lee said...
Yes, what did he say?
He said, it's a longish quote, but I think it's worth hearing just to see like the level
Don't piss on my leg and tell me it's raining.
Yeah. He said, quote, if the reason Mr. Lehrmann needed to return to Parliament House was to collect his keys, he could have texted his girlfriend to have her meet him at the door or called her. Mr. Lehrmann asks me to accept the proposition that it was a, quote, a process to get in to his shared flat, and that to avoid this complication, he preferred to A, go out of his way to go back to work in the early hours, B, lie to Parliament House security, C, sign the necessary register, D, be issued with a pass, E, go through a metal detector, F, be escorted by a security guard to his office, G, obtain his keys from his office, H, book another Uber, I, go back through a parliamentary exit, J, meet the rideshare car, and then K, ride home. Even if he was in the doghouse because he stayed out late, I think it is safe to conclude that the process of getting into a flat he shared with his girlfriend would have been a significantly less elaborate exercise.
No, easy, super easy. Why are you making it like, you break it down step by step. Step 1, get toast out of the bag. Step 2, put it on the plate. Step 3, walk it over to the toaster. Step 4, insert the bread into the toaster. When you say it like that, it's very complicated. But all I did was go into the most secured building in our nation's capital to get my keys rather than talk to my bitch girlfriend. It's pretty straightforward. Are they still together? Is there any information on that? I assume not,
don't know.
Right? Like if he's having parties with girls coming over and stuff, I'd probably not.
I don't know. But I just...
Where's that interview, Channel 10? Where's that interview, the Project Bruce Lehrmann's ex-girlfriend? That's the interview Australia needs.
Yeah, I feel it's rare to hear a judgment from like a judge where you're just hearing them usually just like rattling off legalese and saying all that sort of stuff. I rather appreciated how so much of this, all of like the really choice quote bits have been him just hoeing into everyone involved to be like, this is in great detail why what you said is fucking stupid.
It's just like pure logic applied to the situation. Like, what you are saying makes no sense that you would rather check into Parliament House than call your girlfriend. Like,
I guess the other thing he probably could have added there was like, why bring Brittany Higgins along with you if you were just getting your keys?
Normal stuff.
Totally normal and cool.
Yeah, totally fine and normal. So yeah, and he also says similar things about the whole, oh no, I was going back to write some notes about the submarine deal. And he's like,
after 6 pints?
He's like, it is fanciful, a somewhat lubricated male staffer accompanied by a woman he found attractive who he had just been, quote, pashing in a nightclub despite having a girlfriend, would then be interested after coming to a private place very late to say cheerio and soberly proceed to note up briefs for question time.
Yes, like, it does seem beyond the realm of believability there. Yeah,
absolutely insane. And so then, like, in the immediate aftermath, the next day, every fucking newspaper in the country just had a picture of this guy's face and a headline that would include the words rapist and loser in some order. They all found a different way to do it.
I noticed all the Murdoch papers and media outlets did a 180. They fanged a full hectic 180 in 0.3 seconds.
No. We were always on the public side. Bruce Lehrmann's a terrible guy. We all agreed with you all along. We all agreed. We were all on the same side. Shh. Forget who you going to believe, me or your lying eyes. Shush.
The thing we had in the chat, it was like, there's got to be a chiropractor on every single news floor within the Murdoch
Sky News better have one on retainer.
Where they're just got to fucking try to fix all the backflips that people have been doing around the office.
It's really an OH&S issue. People should not be backflipping that much in the office. It's not safe.
I just on my phone, a thing popped up from, I think it was the editor of the Australian or something, with a bunch of a female panel, and it was like, how did you feel about and they're obviously giving their thoughts and opinions, but smash cut from that to
to Peter Credlin going, is Brittany Higgins a giant cow? Let's investigate.
I mean, different organizations, but still same
umbrella organization. Yeah, no, the Murdoch press, let it be said, you're hearing it here first, was not very kind to Brittany Higgins, and there was a weird period in the interregnum between Bruce Lehrmann launching this defamation case and the end of the criminal proceedings, where he was a kind of a cause celeb in the far right media, look, the man that the woke left tried to put down won't be and then they started hearing the details of the case, like, actually, Bruce, we know we booked you for Saturday, but something's come up. We're just super busy.
Channel 7 literally were like, oh, we can't pay for your $2,000 a week house anymore.
Yeah, whoopsie.
So bye. Sorry.
Oh, but they did that after the long scrutiny of the public also being like, you're paying how much for this guy? They only stopped doing it because they got caught. But I think also I saw I'm going to do an Adam here. I saw a headline somewhere, but that Bruce Lehrmann cancelled a speaking arrangement at an innocent till proven guilty festival or something, some keynote speaker event. And
How?
On what grounds?
The people cancellations getting out of control when the alleged rapist can go to the Don't Tread on Me conference and speak for money. How is this how is this person possibly considered to be cancelled? That's ridiculous.
And
he's living in bloody the Northern Beaches for $2,000 a week on some Channel 7's dime.
Lord knows where he is now. He's not doing that on Channel 7's dime anymore. And the house that he was staying in for a few days because someone put him up that he was using for parties last week, I think he's been kicked out of there as well. Yeah. So Lord knows where he is, and that's
only because he lost the
Daily Mail knows, Tom. The Daily Mail definitely knows.
They always know. They'll be at your door with cameras just to catch you, taking out the garbage or something. But the reason I brought that up with the newspapers before is so he's not staying in any of those places. Where the fuck do you go? When I just wanted to imagine,
where everyone knows your name.
not to sympathize or empathize with him. I was just more trying to imagine on Tuesday this past week. I was like, fuck, what's this morning from his perspective like? Well, you wake up, hungover. If you leave the house and you like decide to go get a coffee or something, every newspaper in the country is a picture of your face.
I don't know. I
just rapist or loser in it. What do you do?
Not that we're trying to like give advice, obviously.
You have to disappear.
But like, this is what happens when you launch defamation proceedings. Yeah. Like, if he just let it go, there wouldn't have been weeks, months of headlines about Bruce Lehrmann next to the word rape. Like, it would have just been
the Streisand effect.
He just Streisand affected the fuck out of this. And then lost the case as well on top of it. So it's not like he won the case and you could go, oh, I was vindicated, I was there. But like, that was never going to happen, right? Like, so it's kind of like, why, what is it with these entitled white dudes going, I'll fucking have him in defamation? It never works out. It literally never, ever works out for you.
What lawyers are turning around going, yeah, mate, it's a slam dunk.
Don't
worry about it. Fucking slam dunk.
Yeah, you went back to work on what? Submarine contracts? Makes perfect sense to me. I get 10%, right? Okay, let's go.
Well, and that was my theory we were talking about the other day, because everyone says it's Kerry Stokes who's fucking funding all these people to bring these defamation acts. What if he is like, Kerry Stokes, I mean, what if Kerry Stokes is like, you know, a secret, like a sleeper agent? What if he's secretly the good guy being like, yeah, it's a slam dunk, as Adam says, I'll give you the money to do it, go to court. So as we get more details about these awful people, Ben Roberts,
so you're saying
Bruce Lehrmann, and then they get absolutely turfed out.
You're saying billionaire Kerry Stokes has been activated like some sort of Manchurian candidate. Someone said like pussy hat, and he was just like, wakes up from a 30-year sleep, dormant, ready to start throwing white men into the public meat grinder by funding their defamation cases. Is that
he's an agent for the woke left, George.
Yep. That's what I mean.
We go on. We finally go on.
The defamation suits never go well for the person. So why would he even, like, from his perspective, Kerry Stokes, it's entirely financial. Why do you keep putting the money up to these people when it never works out? And that was the only logical one I could think of if you were a guy on the inside trying to further expose the evils of these people.
The city's eating itself.
Yeah.
We should probably move on to the rest of our stories for this week. But I don't know if they're necessarily as good as that. But there's other things we can laugh at, such as Brad Banducci, who's back in the news this week. He's the Woolworths CEO,
why can't I quit you?
The soon-to-be retired Woolworths CEO. That was announced 2 days after that interview where he absolutely balked it and attempted to leave.
Now, you don't need to be a body language expert to see that Mr. Banducci is having a bit of a tough time here. There's kind of sitting back in his chair, slumped over, you know, obviously a dour expression on his face. And he's been questioned by a Greens senator about Woolies.
This is the Senate Select Committee on Supermarket Prices.
Yes. And believe it or not, they're not fans of the supermarket prices being where they're at the moment. So let's listen to some of this audio of Brad being sad.
Mr. Banducci, you've repeatedly refused to answer my question on return on equity. I feel compelled to advise you that it is open to the Senate to hold a witness in contempt when they refuse to answer a legitimate question. I also feel compelled to advise you that opens up a range of sanctions, personal sanctions, that can be applied against you if that's what the Senate decides to do. Having said that, I ask you again, is your return on equity in the last financial year about 26%?
Senator, I've answered the question many times.
You have not answered the question, Mr. Banducci. Honestly, I'm not interested in your spin or your bullshit. This is a Senate inquiry. Answer the question. Was your return on equity 26% in the last financial year, which is more than 2.5 times the average ROE enjoyed by Australian banks, which are the most profitable banks in the world? Is that true or not?
George, for the listener, what is return on equity?
I'm so glad you asked, Adam. So return on equity is a measure of a company's performance. So essentially what you're looking at is a company's ability to the amount of income that's being generated against the amount of shareholders and shares that are out there. So it's a measure of profitability, essentially. So there's two elements. Return on investment is answering the question, what rate of return did your assets generate for each dollar of capital raised from both shareholders and debt holders? So how much equity? So people have bought into the company with shares, and debt, right? Because that number is likely to be a larger number, well, it is larger by definition because it includes shareholders and debt, then the amount of return that you're going to get on that money is going to be a lower number. So that's the 10% number. He goes, our return on investment is 10%, and that's what we're measured on, and that's what we look at. He goes, right. But return on equity is what I'm asking about. Return on equity is what rate of return did you generate for shareholders after accounting for the impact of debt and taxes? So it is a much more direct representation of the money that shareholders have invested in the company versus how much goes into the company from shareholders, from the owners of the company versus how much goes out. And it gives you an idea of the efficiency of the company, how much money they make based on what goes in. The debt question, return on investment, kind of complicates factors because there's ways to access corporate debt that are better and worse, corporate bonds, like direct borrowing, things like that. So if you're looking for a direct measure of how well the company transfers your investment into profit, then return on equity is a good measure. Now, a sensible...
And the higher the number, the better.
The higher the number, the gooder it is.
Yeah, it's not like golf. Okay,
the higher number is a gooder number. So a really healthy return on equity would be somewhere between 10 to 20%. Depends on the kinds of firms. Like all of these ratios and measurements, when you're studying business, they'll talk to you about them in context of other like industries. So you go, is a profit to earnings ratio of 30 times good? You go, well, for a mining company, it's really good, but for a tech company, not so much, right? You would expect a much higher ratio for this kind of company. So, but that being said, 10 to 20% ROE, very healthy. Now, Woolies has a return on equity of 26%, which, as the senator mentioned there, Nick McKim mentioned there, is substantially higher than the four major banks in Australia, which are like famously rapacious. Like it's like basically saying like you made more money than Blackbeard last year. Is that correct? It's like, yeah, we did. And that's why he doesn't want to say it. That's why they're focusing on the return on investment number, because that's a smaller number. 10% sounds better than 26%. That's really all it is. That's why he's trying to focus on that number rather than the other one.
It's funny because what happened after this, because Mr. Banducci did eventually say something to the effect of, I think, I don't know, which Nick McKim just sort of said, okay.
Okay, buddy. Okay, it's your whole literal job all day, every day is looking at these numbers. Okay, you don't recall? Okay.
Yeah, I thought then the question turned into, you don't know what Woolworths' return on equity is, yes or no, like whether or not that's information that you know, because then that says something.
What do you do all day? Do you just play a lot of Minecraft? Like, what are you doing at your desk all day, Brad?
He's on the way out.
This would be your job. I know, but like, then just go. If you've got to go, then just go. He obviously doesn't want to be there. Like, just go. Let your COO handle it or something. Like,
but the Coles CEO was the next one up, and Nick McKim asked her the same question first up, and then she was like, yeah, it's this. But obviously having the benefit of hindsight.
Because they know that the Woolworths guy's getting grilled on it. So
not first.
To their, like, interns or whatever, being like, tell me what the ROE is right fucking now.
They're on the phone going, listen,
Carol, I don't give a fuck.
Give me the numbers.
You pull out that annual report and you fucking get it here now.
Yeah, that's what every politician after Albo didn't know the unemployment rate or whatever. It was like, fucking tell me what the unemployment rate is right now.
What's the wage price index? Fucks, what do these terms mean?
What the Coles CEO did then go on to say was that it is a bit different to comparing them with banks because of various factors, which I didn't quite understand. But
it's a different kind of industry, but like 26%, objectively across industries is a very healthy rate, right?
Well, I guess the point that the supermarkets are trying to raise is that they're a high volume, low margin business, but in the high volume, they do make a good margin in aggregate. The other thing it's Nick McKim. He's a Green senator from Tasmania, and these Senate inquiries, given that they're having a Senate inquiry into supermarket prices, the questions were always going to be combative, shall we say.
Ooh.
So,
but a counterpoint, I hear what you're saying. On the other hand, love it, here for the tea. So, anytime you can make a multi-millionaire uncomfortable, here for it. Absolutely here for it. Dish, girl.
Speaking of making people feel uncomfortable, there has been a review into an arm's length government agency that I didn't know existed, called the Australian Pesticides and Veterinary Medicines Authority, which basically, I guess, they're a peak body that sort of regulates on, various industry codes of practices and that kind of thing within the fields that I've just mentioned.
Yeah, they regulate like agricultural.
Yeah.
Products.
Pesticides.
So in 2016, old mate on the sidewalk, Barnaby Joyce, decided, he was the minister at the time, decided that it would be great to relocate that regulator from Canberra to Armidale. And since then, where's the quote from the review? A review from Clayton Utz found that the APVMA has been captured by industry interests and was subject to regular complaints of misconduct, including allegations of a staff member urinating on colleagues at a 2021 Christmas party.
You're focusing on the urinating on the colleagues thing, which is fair enough.
It's go hard. No, that's the opening. It's one of the opening paragraphs. George.
I get it. I hear you, but the reason that they found the regulator was the reason that they're wanting to move the regulator back to Canberra from Armidale in New South Wales is not because someone pissed on someone.
That's the recommendation now. Yeah, yes, the recommendation from this review is to move it back to Canberra, which, I hear,
review
George,
found...
I hear what you're saying.
I hear what you're saying.
They put the urination thing last in the list. It was the last one that you hear, so it's at the forefront of your mind when you hear this story.
It's the recency
given
effect.
A lot of importance by the journalists.
So a recent review found the regulator was, quote, captured by industry interests and was subject to regular complaints of misconduct. So the recommendation has been, in 2016? Yeah,
2016.
2016, Barnaby Joyce says, let's move this Australian Pesticides and Veterinary Medicines Authority out to Armidale, which is in northern New South Wales, away from Canberra. And now the recommendation is, based on what we're hearing about what's going on over there, what with the piss, perhaps we should move it back to Canberra because it sounds like they're a little bit too chummy with industry. And that's the recommendation. Now, the government, to their credit, has basically said, thank you very much for your hard work. We will be ignoring your recommendation.
Well, I guess that's interesting as well. In if they're going to ignore that recommendation, if it's actually based upon concerns of conflicts of interests and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, I felt the way that this story was presented, I'm with Adam here. The way it was presented was, it really seemed like it's all these wildcats who are pissing on each other at Christmas parties and are just debaucherous wahoos. No. We got to move them back to Canberra, where people are not debaucherous wahoos.
No, certainly not.
They are.
Bro, have you been to a public service Christmas party? Those guys go hard.
Have you heard the many stories of people being in public bar in Manuka in Canberra and seeing politicians doing things they shouldn't?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, now we know where Bruce Lehrmann finds his friends.
Indeed. And Barnaby Joyce, the man himself, has turned around and said, well, it's good that they're leaving it there, but we need to be careful that they're just going to parachute in Canberra people to take the executive positions. Allegedly, what's been happening is they're getting either Canberra people to move to Armidale, or they're getting remote working arrangements set up, to sort of take over certain key positions within the organisation.
Right.
Which
a stealth takeover, like Hydra from
Hydra. Yeah, I don't know. I think the fact that it moved to Armidale in the first place is a very Barnaby Joyce
weird,
decision.
right? Well,
I mean, it's more I think his electorate is regional New South Wales somewhere. I forget where. I thought
he is New England.
New England. That was it. So out that area. So probably there's a bit of that there. I know also there'd be a bit of a thing of like, Canberra city people running a department that is much more relevant to
so Armidale. I'm pretty sure Armidale is in New England in New South Wales.
Yeah.
Oh, that seems convenient, Barnaby.
Yeah, interesting.
Interesting, right? But yeah, and also, I know there's probably a bit of tensions on that sort of concept, but also, asking Barnaby about this. He's also just like, I know it was his decision originally in 2016, so there's a bit of relevance there, but you're just getting him saying things like calling it a backdoor shutdown. I'm like, what?
Don't use the phrase backdoor, Barnaby.
Like, huh?
Don't say
that. Seems a bit odd. And then just, an all-timer for him, I think. You don't fix a building by burning it down. You don't fix an issue with a car by throwing it off a cliff. You fix it by finding the problem and fixing it.
You fix it by moving the department to your electorate. Okay? That's how you fix it. And they were saying
Barnaby was just following departmental advice.
And the departmental advice, hello, Barnaby, it's me, your advisor, Barnaby. Hello, Barnaby, how are you, you old scallywag? How about we move the department to your electorate? What a fabulous idea, Barnaby. That's what he was talking about on the phone when he was upside down on the ground. Barnaby, you fucking piss about. What? Move it to my own electorate? That's ridiculous. Hey, Barnaby, I reckon it's a good idea. You might get away with it, mate. I don't know what accent I'm doing anymore.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. But so interesting story about.
But there was all this critique. He's saying like, the first time we did that, like 90% of the department quit because they don't want to live in like rural New South Wales for whatever reason. Yeah. And again, we don't want to have those kind of disruptions again. But it's like those were the disruptions that you brought about, Barnaby, by moving it to your electorate in 2016. And if they do that in reverse, you can't be turned around and be like, it was a terrible idea the first time when I did it. Why would we do it again? Where's the logic? It's completely circular, Barnaby.
You can't keep a good man down.
He's Ouroboros, just eating his own tail constantly. The man is an enigma.
He's a nuclear reactor. You can't stop him. He'll just keep going forever until the heat death of the universe.
He'll burn to the heat death of the universe and generates a lot of waste.
Yeah.
Yeah, all heat and not a lot of light. I think that's Barnaby Joyce in a nutshell, I think.
Well, speaking of the heat death of the universe and government decisions that were made, the Defence Department and Richard Marles, who is the Defence Minister, has announced that the government will spend an extra $50 billion on defence over the next decade, and they're also going to reprioritise an existing $72.8 billion in planned spending. As George said in the show notes, the money machine go brrr.
Money machine go brrr. There's always money in the banana stand for defense, but what's that? What's that? You guys want an extra $1 billion for affordable housing? Work for it, Greens. Dance for daddy. That's it. I love that it's like Greens, need to force a constitutional crisis and, potentially double dissolution by threatening to choke off the supply of the government for 6 weeks while they get an extra $1 billion for housing supply. Defense industry just exists. Labor, here's a bunch of money for both of you. So here's Richard Marles saying words with his mouth.
We simply have to make the difficult decision to keep the vast bulk of our effort in our region. That is what the world would expect of us. It is what our ally, the United States, does expect of us. But far more significantly and importantly, it is where our national interest unambiguously lies. Indeed, to make any other call would be to ignore the Defence Strategic Review at the first juncture and for Australia not to be taken seriously. Our nation has a growing economic connection to the world. Trade is an increasing part of our national income. In 1990, trade represented 32% of our GDP. By 2020, that had risen to 45% of our GDP. Most of this trade is with our region, China, Korea and Japan being 3 of our top 5 trading partners. The great bulk of it is by sea. We have key exposures. For example, at the beginning of this century, we satisfied most of our liquid fuel needs by refining locally sourced crude oil in one of the 8 oil refineries which then operated in Australia. Today, there are just 2 refineries left. Around 80% of what they refine is imported crude oil, and today around 85% of our liquid fuel needs are supplied by imported refined product, most of it from just 3 countries, Korea, Singapore and Malaysia.
Okay. So, a few things. The whole thing is about like, oh, we need to be able to project force and, protect our trade routes. But he then goes on to highlight that our largest trading partner is China. And just remind me again who it would be that would be threatening those trade routes in the Indo-Pacific if something were to happen.
All right, Utopia.
Just remind me again. Is it China? Does it sound like China? So we're spending money to protect ourselves from disruption of trade with China from China. That's the plan? That's what we're going for here. And then all this stuff about crude oil and refineries. We used to have 8, we only have 2. It's like, well, the energy grid and requirements of the country have completely shifted. And like, not least because of renewable energy and all this other stuff going on, but like the globalization of trade has meant that all of our resource companies that are digging stuff out of the ground are selling those things off for profit to other countries. Like, we are not a nation that is short of natural resources. Like, if push came to shove and we had all of our shipping lanes cut off for whatever reason, Australia is probably one of the few countries in the world that could maintain autarky, which is what it means to be like completely self-sufficient in terms of what you generate versus what you consume, right? Like, we have
in terms of the resources themselves, but
we've got food,
process them.
Processing would be something we would need to develop. But like, in terms of having all of the things that we need to survive here, like Australia, the United States, like there's very few countries in the world that can really lay claim to being able to be, sort of completely autarkic in that respect. So I don't buy the idea of like, oh, we import all our fuel. We're a vulnerable nation like Singapore that gets everything shipped in and we all just live in towers and we don't make anything. It's like, well, that's nonsense. And also like, describing an economy that's completely decoupled from, you're describing a globalized economy. That is true for every nation on earth now, is that we trade with others. This is the state of affairs that various Labor and Liberal governments have been working so hard to bring about over the last 30, 40 years, is a globalized economy. So you can't just go, oh, it's all globalized. Like, it's like,
our hands are tied.
But you did that. You chose to do that to our economy. And that's why it is the way it is now. Like,
yeah,
but I think more. Yeah, sorry, no, go ahead.
No, I was going to say. So, in terms of what they're actually announcing, so the money will be spent on basically things like missile systems, naval assets. Some of it will go into the AUKUS deal. They're moving some money from some ships that they were going to build. They're going to put some money into some other things.
We're going to be building missiles locally now. So
locally,
watch out, Gazan children. You're going to start seeing some missiles with the Australian flag on them now.
Oh, God, that's dark.
Some of it in the initial
Walt Sigma Tilda.
In the next, so it's over the next decade, I believe. The next 4 years, we'll see not as much sort of rolled out. Most of that will come towards the end of the decade.
Yeah.
Right on time.
But the whole concept is the Defence Strategic Review, which they issued, basically said you need to be able to protect your shipping lanes, and that's effectively what this money is sort of designed to do.
So now we're going to be spending 2.4% of GDP.
Yeah.
Just on defence. And it's amazing when you ask defence guys, should we spend more money on you with a strategic review? It's weird. The answer always comes back yes. It's weird we don't ever consult the homelessness industrial complex and say, hey, do you need more money to deal with homelessness? Because they would always say yes as well. It's weird.
Yeah, actually, I'd love to see a report from Defence saying like, nah, we need less money.
What about Big Yo-Yo? Let's consult Big Yo. Hey, Big Yo-Yo, do you need more government money? Yeah, fucking more money for yo-yos. It's integral.
I think they were planning on doing some bloody unmanned underwater vehicles and a few other things technologies that they're basically going to develop out of this money as well. So it's not like what they're promising isn't necessarily even in systems. Some of it is in systems that exist currently, but some of it's also on like, we're going to make it make a thing that doesn't exist yet, and and hope that it works.
I love making things that don't exist.
Again, I just want to be able to go to a hospital and see a doctor within 6 hours. Like, that's really all.
Yeah.
That's all I'm really hoping for. I don't need underwater unmanned submarines to kill, Chinese, protect shipping lanes from China to China. Like, can we just get a health system that works? And maybe
if the unmanned autonomous underwater killbots are also able to maybe work in an emergency, that'd be great. If they could also
make them manned, and we can put the homeless in them, and then that way they'll have somewhere to go. You can kill two birds with one stone. No, I just
think some kind of like StarCraft Space Marine program where
turn
people
them all
are
into
locked
Space
in their
Marines.
mech suits.
Yeah, we're fighting for democracy,
Christ.
fighting the bugs for democracy. No, I just hate, I'm joking about it, but I actually find it deeply upsetting that there's always money in the banana stand for defense. But for every dollar for social good, for affordable housing, for homelessness support, for hospitals, for teachers, for roads, every time that there's a campaign to try and raise more money for one of those, the government turns out its pockets and goes, where are we going to get the money? There's no money left. Oh, sorry. We're only going to raise JobKeeper by $2 a day. Sorry, there's no money left in the budget. It's all spent. It's all gone. I'm out of pocket money. There's no money left. The defense needs $50 billion? Yeah, fucking no worries, mate. Right this way. We've saved a table for you.
For me, it's whatever the... I'm trying to think of the equivalent expression, like the burden of proof, like what we were talking about earlier. Yeah. Like the bar for the justification for whatever justification is necessary for extra money in defense seems to be so much lower than for anything that is anything that is seen to be like a handout.
And the reporting word and the language about it is so passive. Richard Marles unveils $50 billion defense spending increase over the next decade. Oh, he unveiled it. It was already there sitting underneath the sheet, and he just simply plucked it off. And it's like, they deliberately chose to add $50 billion more than was there before. There's $1 billion that's going in today, just like a spot bill. Like, here's a bill, like sprinkle a bill on it. Yeah, like that'll fix it up. It's just like whenever defense spending happens, it's like, it's inevitable. It's like, of course, it was unveiled, it was shown, it was distributed. It's like, this is how it always was and always will be. But whenever it's like, we have to put some money together, it's like, where are we going to find the money? Where is it going to come out of the budget? Like, how are we going to pay for it? Like, whenever it's anything to do with social good, that's the conversation that's had. When it's anything to do with defense spending, it's just like, passive language preeminent. The $1 billion found its way into the pockets of Boeing and Raytheon. It just appeared there out of thin air. Like,
what I find, I mean, I think there is strategic circumstances which mean that we do need to focus on defense to some extent, but
the NATO countries have got a 2% of GDP target. 2.4% is fucking ridiculous. Okay,
it's a lot of money. And the other aspect that I find, it's a self-fulfilling sort of prophecy, and it's the whole thing of the defense industrial complex, where it's like, why is everything so expensive in defense? Well, it's because there's, as George said, there is no sort of like break on the public expenditure. We'll just go, so what do you want for these missiles? And then the company,
how much you got?
How much you got, basically.
They're all snickering in the back room. Like, I don't know, like, ask for $50 billion. No, they'll never go for that.
The government is a customer that not only buys sticker price, it offers over above sticker price. Yeah, it's like, well, I got $50 billion. How many cars do you want to give me? How many takes do you want to give me?
And so with that in mind, and keeping in mind that has been the case for the latter part of the 20th century, to build a ship now is hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of $1 million. Whereas you think back in like World War II, like American shipyards were popping these things out like one a week. Like it's a completely different
Granted, there's more computers and it's more technical.
It's waste.
But,
but it's waste, George. Like the
a
whole
lot
thing,
of it is,
we're wasting. A lot of that money will just get wasted.
Yes.
It's not getting value for money.
Mate, you don't need to convince me. I'm on your side. Like 100%. The amount of waste in the defense industry is appalling. If any kind of standards that were applied to any other kind of government grant or government expenditure were applied to the defense industry, it would fail woefully. But like when you get a grant from the government, you go to Creative Australia and you get $100,000 grant to go and like put together some artistic program. They'll say, what are you doing? How many days? How much are you getting paid? If you're going to have any reimbursables, where are your receipts?
What was your return on investment?
What's your return? What's your ROE, Mr. Banducci? Don't bullshit me. If it's any other kind of government expenditure, it's put through a rigorous set of checks and balances to make sure that the government is getting return on its money, even like to the extent that for some procurement exercises, it actually doesn't make sense. The amount of money that they're spending on controls in some instances, considering the amount of money is so small, actually doesn't kind of make sense given how small the return is. Like the amount of extra work that you need to do for such a small amount of money actually kind of makes it not worth it. And yet, with all of that said, when it comes to defense, they just get like a blank check and they go, well, we'll just give you the check and you can fill out the amount yourselves. It's such a weird double standard.
There is definitely, there is rigor. There are risk assessments. There is a lot of process that goes into defense projects, but there's also a lot of like for all that process, there are multiple examples of failure and waste and cancelled programs and scoping studies that never get off the fucking ground.
Well, I can't think of a single example during my lifetime where we have had a successful military hardware project that was returned on time and on budget. Like I cannot think of one.
No. The only thing that's been done recently is the unmanned aerial vehicle thing that we're sort of pioneering, I guess, which is the GhostBat program, which is, as far as I'm aware, a relative success story, although it's still at prototype stage. I don't think they've started rolling them out in great numbers. But anything to do with shipbuilding in Australia is broken and doesn't, is 10 years later.
Or plane building. What happened to those was it F-16s that we were? What happened to those? Don't hear about those anymore.
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that they've announced in this package is that basically they're not going to replace the F-18 Super Hornets and Growlers. They're going to keep them into the 2040s, and they're going to cancel 2 resupply ships, which would have been worth a couple of $1 billion in terms of the whole program. But one might argue that you need resupply ships if you've got an expanded navy, which is all part of the plan. But anyway, so... I mean, this is all, over the next decade, which if you really think that China's going to invade Taiwan, you'd probably think that that's going to happen before that period, if you believe that. So, all this money that we're spending is probably null and void anyway for any regional conflict that may occur.
It really sounds like to me that, I don't know, maybe the Defense Department or like the actual, or the military industrial complex is like treating the Australian government like a baby bunting salesman treats prospective parents. Just you'll be like, all right, this is the thing that we want. This is the missile. These are the missiles that we're after. They're like, oh wow, okay. Like yeah, sure, you can have those missiles, but if you really care about, you really love your baby, though, you want like the missiles with the hexagonal.
The hexagonal, because it stops the car good, because the hexagonal it impacts crushing.
It bombs the pirate ships better. And you're like, does it though? And they're like, well, I mean, how much do you really love your country?
How much do you love your baby? Yeah.
Have you guys ever been to the air show here in Melbourne?
Yes. No, I've been to the one in Melbourne, but I've been to an air show. Yeah.
So the one in Melbourne, the first day, which isn't open to the public, is just a defense
circle jerk.
Yeah, it's a conference. Yeah. And you can go to the conference stands as part of the public days, and you walk in there, and it is literally like new missile technology, new unmanned aerial vehicle technology, or whatever.
You just see the fucking Illuminati with their lizard, with their masks off and their lizard heads sticking out, doing deals.
There's a guy there from Lockheed Martin,
just drinking some adrenochrome next to Hillary Clinton.
But like a lot of the stuff they're trying to sell and trying to pivot and exhibit, it's all new. A lot of it's just like new technology that's like either a theory or is at prototype stage that hasn't really been mass produced. The other thing, like if you get into a proper war, like if you look at Russia, if you look at what's happening in Ukraine, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter about how fucking good your tech is. If the war lasts for longer than 3 weeks, it's about how much of it you can make and how fucking quickly you can fucking smash it out.
How can you deploy? It becomes about the same sort of shit that it was about when Caesar and Hannibal and all of these other great military generals were around. It's about supply lines. It's about surrounding your enemy. It's about material. It's about how many troops you got where and where can you fucking circle back behind. It becomes
literal
about
numbers.
Yeah. How many bodies can you throw at the problem to make it go away?
And you can argue that, like fancy technologies are a good deterrent. Sure, great. But
look at this fucking drone and it can throw knives at people's faces. And it's like, okay, cool, I guess.
But like if we're actually preparing for a war, if that's what this is all about, mate, like we're not, I don't know. Yes, we need missiles, but like, I don't know about unmanned underwater vehicle development. Like just build some fucking ships with some guns on them and stick a few shore batteries on some islands and away you go. I don't understand what the money's being spent on. Like apart from a few key phrases.
Oh, well, we'll get a FOIA request. Some independent journalist, the last one standing amongst the roaches after the nuclear blast in 30 years, will do a FOIA request and we'll go, actually, did you hear that there was like $11 squillion wasted on the unmanned fucking Wally program? And, that's a lot of money. Yeah, that's fucked. Hey, meanwhile, my HEX debt is now $400,000 because it keeps going up with the indexation. But there's nothing we can do about that. So,
speaking of going up, Netflix, their profits have soared.
You dumb motherfuckers! We had one job. Job, which is when Netflix says we're going to split apart your accounts because of the IP addresses. All we had to do was quit Netflix, and you know what we didn't do? Quit Netflix. We had one job because now all these other motherfucking services, Disney Plus and Stan and HBO Max and Binge and fucking Fred, I don't know what other ones are out there. They're all going to turn around and go, oh, Netflix did it and got away with it. We should do it as well. You idiots. You ruined it.
We really, the people really fucked it. We love talking about... We really love talking about voting with our wallets, and no one fucking does it.
Like, man, Netflix is going to lose so many subscribers, man. Man, if I can't share my Netflix account anymore, man, I'm going to fucking quit. And all those keyboard warriors, where are they? They're like, I really want to see the new season of Stranger Things. Can't be bothered. I'll just sign up.
Yeah.
Where were you? Where were you, my weekend warriors? My keyboard karate warriors? Where were you?
Yeah, it's just so incredibly disappointing because now we've talked about it before. Everyone's talked about it before. Like the streaming service onslaught has just become cable television again in terms of the costs and all that sort of stuff to have access to all the stuff that you want to watch. So them cracking down on us being able to share passwords and to share accounts, like which on the principle of the thing shouldn't fucking matter, because if I'm paying for a subscription, like part of Netflix's original concepts, right, was a number of concurrent screens.
Why am I paying for 4 screens then if I have to use them all in the same fucking house? That's not what I'm paying for 4 screens for. I'm paying for 4 screens so my ex-girlfriend's brother and his wife and their cousin can be on my account. That's why I'm paying for 4. I only got 1 screen in the house.
Yeah, because while they set that up to be like so that parents can be watching something while kids are watching something and like all that sort of stuff around the house, great. But how is that any, like, if I don't have 3 kids who also want to be watching something, there's just me and my partner and we watch the same thing at the same time. So how is it any different for Netflix then if 3 of my friends are watching something at their house while I'm watching something at my house? It's the same amount of screens.
It's different because they want your fucking money. Shut up and give me your fucking money, Tom. Shut the fuck up and give me your money. Where's my money, bitch? Where's my fucking money, Brian? Where's my money, bitch?
It's just it's fucking disgusting. I hate it when they do this sort of shit. And we blew it. We blew it because everyone went, oh fuck, I can't borrow Steve's password anymore. I'll just get my own account then. Well, I had it good for a while there, but now I guess I'll bite the bullet and pay $20 a month.
Meanwhile, you got Hubble and stuff, which are coming into the market now, which I think is like a $99 fucking sign up fee.
I still refuse to understand what Hubble is. I have seen
it's like a conglomerate. It's basically cable.
It's
a cable service.
In the big brick suit talking to Andy. I don't want to find out what Hubble is. Please
it's
don't.
It's basically cable.
Please
Tom,
stop.
it's cable.
No, stop.
Tom, it's cable.
No, mute him. I don't want to know.
The best part about this whole announcement, because so basically Netflix's last quarter was pretty good. They've also announced after they've said our numbers are looking good, but we're also going to stop reporting our key subscriber numbers from next year. So
we're gonna stop reporting the key metric that shows
the
how
one
well
thing
our
that people
is doing.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, great.
We're doing so good that we're not going to tell you.
yeah.
So basically, they're just going to report on earnings numbers, and they're not going to report on subscriber numbers or any of that sort of stuff going forward. But which tells me that they're fully intent on knowing that their subscriber numbers are likely to plateau.
Yeah,
they're just going to find ways to wring more and more money out of their existing subscriber base, which means one of two things. It means either the service gets shittier with ads, or it's going to cost more. That's the only way that they know that they can grow the revenue for their service is to charge you more. If they're not adding more users.
Is Pirate Bay still a thing? Did that get taken down? PirateBay.ca?
We don't. I'm not aware of the location of the Pirate Bay, and
is there a bay? Is there a bay somewhere?
Yarmy hearty. I don't know. I never heard of no Pirate Bay
inside.
Yar.
The bay.
Nobody knows the location of the Pirate Bay. It is a secret.
I feel like late noughties George, Tom, and Adam, Tom, and George. Tom, whatever the other variation of that is.
Those are our three names.
Those are us. Yep.
I feel like we were better at this than we are now.
Better.
Do you know what I mean?
Better at piracy.
No, like I want some said cultural content. I will find a way to get that for free through various means that have been from a bay in which pirates somehow or some way have resided.
Now you're like, we're 15 years of 15 years of
rationalization.
Of capitalist rationalization of being spoiled on better service of having streaming services rather than just Foxtel cable, but also now being fully aware of how trackable fucking everything on the internet is now, that you feel like you're like, oh my god, where can I go to get my Game of Thrones for free? When back then you would have known the username of the person who uploads every show somehow.
I want to pay $40 a month.
What a legend!
I want to pay $40 a month maximum. And I just want to watch my shows. I haven't got time to be trawling through torrents and reading reviews of Posh Puppy 420 reckons this is a good torrent, and then you download it and it's Rick Astley on a loop. I don't have time. I'm so busy. I'm so tired. I have an 8-month-old child and I am so tired. I have so little time for myself. Most of it I spend here with you idiots, and I don't have time to go and look at torrents. I just want to click on the thing on my television, and I just want to watch Shogun. I don't want to have to think too hard about it. I just wanted to click the thing, and then the thing starts playing. Please help me.
Yeah. Well, speaking of the things start playing, so Elon Musk obviously is a man who owns Twitter, or X, and X has famously got basically zero to no sort of content moderation. And after the said stabbings that we covered at the start of the show, there were various unfiltered videos that appeared online of said stabbings. To which point the Australian watchdog, the platforms, where are we? What's it called? Online Safety Watchdog, whoever that is.
The Australian eSafety Commissioner. Yeah.
There you go, eSafety Commissioner. They turned around and said, can you please take those down? And
can you tell us a bit about the content of the post? Was it misinformation, or what was the issue with them?
Well, so the issue was, so if you watch a news article, the stabbing is cut or grayed out before it actually happens. If you watch it on X, the person goes up and you watch the stabbing
You're just
in
watching
real time.
snuff content.
People getting
online.
stabbed.
Yeah.
It's so the eSafety Commissioner.
Yeah. But I feel also a part of it because a lot of these are related to, so not the stabbing attack at the shopping centre last weekend, but this was the stabbing attack in a church, which has been classified as a terrorist attack, or at least a terrorist incident by the government, and ASIO and all those sorts of people. So there's also the aspect here that the sharing of the footage and discussion around it can be inciting tensions.
And it's an information environment where misinformation then becomes rampant.
Yes,
as well.
So I think they kind of like
the wrong
take
person
down these posts.
The wrong person was identified on social media.
That was for the shopping center one.
After the shopping center attack.
Yeah, we talked about that last week. Yeah, but so sharing videos of the stabbing happening and being like because a news outlet could be sharing it blurred, like Adam referred to, or someone could be saying like, "Yeah, hurrah, go that guy for stabbing that priest," like, and that's inciting the exact
violence,
ideology or violence that was the intent of the action, right? So yeah, you are enabling the point of the terrorist act, right? To incite the hatred to further the ideology.
The eSafety Commissioner said, basically, take these down or face a fine of $785,000, which, for a company like X doesn't seem like a whole lot. But X have responded and said that they're going to fight.
It's a daily fine of $785,000.
Okay, no, that's quite a lot, actually.
That's a lot of money. That definitely adds up.
I was like, a one-off fine. I was like, that feels like a
mate, you could even $785,000. You could almost buy a 2-bedroom unit in the outskirts of Melbourne for that much.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll see what happens. But basically, it looks like X are going to fight it. Now Tom has to go because he has to go and pick up his lovely partner from the airport. But we're probably going to wrap up the show anyway, I think.
Well, you guys can shit on the Cybertruck while I'm gone, but I probably got to roll.
That's okay. Do you want to shit on my Cybertruck, George? Or
yeah, of course I do. Yeah, see you, Tom.
Yeah, okay.
Bye.
Love you, bye.
Love you, bye. Yeah, so I guess they've got some lawyers who reckon that it's somehow the order is somehow illegal within the Australian legal system. But
so X posted they took advantage of their X Blue coverage on X, and I can't say the Twitter. It's so dumb. The recent attacks in Australia are a horrific assault on free society. Our condolences go out to those who've been affected, blah, blah, blah. Following these events, the Australian eSafety Commissioner ordered X to remove certain posts in Australia that publicly commented on the recent attack against a Christian bishop. These posts did not violate X's rules on violent speech. Okay. X believes that eSafety's order was not within the scope of Australian law, and we complied with the directive pending a legal challenge. X has now received a demand from the eSafety Commissioner that X globally withhold these posts or face a daily fine of $785,000.
A daily fine.
This is a tragic event, and we do not allow people to praise it or call for further violence. There is a public conversation happening about the event on X and across Australia, as is often the case when events of major public concern occur. While X respects the right of a country to enforce its laws within its jurisdiction, the eSafety Commissioner does not have the authority to dictate what content X users can see globally. We will robustly challenge this unlawful and dangerous approach in court. Global takedown orders go against the very principles of a free and open internet and threaten free speech everywhere. Unless, of course, you're talking about the Uyghurs in China, in which case, X is a very good boy. Don't worry about it. We'll take those posts down for you.
Yeah, it's obviously they just want to make sure that they're putting pressure back on the Australian government. Otherwise, every other government in the world will start doing the same thing, and that's bad for X's, their user count probably, and therefore their bottom line advertising revenue or whatever else.
Great, by the way, which is going great at the moment. Yeah, it's going so good. I think it's. I mean, the law is fairly clear. The eSafety Commissioner has the right to turn around and tell social media companies to take down content that they don't like. Other jurisdictions have similar laws. Like, this is not a world first. I don't know why X is Twitter is choosing to die on this hill. I think it's probably got something to do with the fact that Elon Musk is now their noble and fearless leader. But yeah, just another reason.
Or their lawyers are like, trust me, bro.
Bro, it's the same lawyer that represented Bruce Lehrmann. It's the same guy. Bro, trust me on this, bro. We're going to fucking smash him, bro. We're going to get 10% on this, bro. I am going to be, old Gil is going to be rolling in it.
And speaking of Elon Musk as well, there's been a recall this week. And a total recall, as it were, not a total recall, not a partial recall, of the Tesla Cybertrucks.
What? No. What?
Turns out,
stop it.
There's an issue with their accelerator, whereby it can become stuck and lodged in the floor, which would lead to, quote, uncontrolled acceleration.
Adam, that's not okay. That's not a bug. That's a feature. It's called full self-driving. Okay,
full send it. That's what that is. You can go full send it.
You cannot help but full self-drive this car. It's so, how do these fucking things get on the road? I don't understand. How is Elon Musk the richest guy in the world? I do not understand. Everything he puts out there seems to be like a big bundle of shit. This car's fully stainless steel. It's like 4 tons on the road. And then they're like, what are these discolored spots on my car? It looks like rust. Is my car rusting? And they're like, that's not rust. No. That's the oxidation of iron particles that have hit into your car. It's like, yeah, it's called rust, Elon. That's what happens when oxidization happens from iron.
You just got to get some rubbing alcohol and just rub it off.
You can't even put the fucking thing through a car wash without giving it some sort of procedure for it first.
I mean, look, I do think somehow online, the Cybertruck is basically a drivable meme, as it were.
Wasn't it meant to be like a tank? He like threw a metal ball at it to show how rugged and sturdy it was, but it can't stand up to the overwhelming force of a fucking car wash. A brushless car wash is going to take this thing out. Seriously?
So every time something goes wrong with the Tesla product, particularly the Cybertruck, it becomes an online sensation.
Oh, mate, if Volvo was making cars you couldn't wash, there'd be a news story about it, okay? We would be talking about the unwashable Volvo.
I don't know, man. There's like in the inner east of Melbourne, there's a lot of fucking Teslas now. Let me tell you. There's every third car is a fucking Tesla. You drive up to Camberwell and it's just Tesla City. You go to Chadstone, it's like Teslaville. Teslas are everywhere. Although, I think if you left the inner eastern Melbourne bubble and went probably a little bit further out, you'd find that there's probably not as many Teslas.
No Teslas out here, mate. Let me tell you. Out in the bush, mate. No bloody Teslas around here.
What do you got? You got a few fucking Commodores.
Bloody Commodore, mate. Get it out with you. Yeah, Holden, mate. Holden with the Holden with the plush interior that sags down out of the roof. That's what we got out here. It's fucking old Holdens and older drivers.
Kingswood. And to be fair, that Kingswood and those Commodores are now worth more than Teslas are because they're bloody collector's items.
The cars you see out here, we're in the outer east, is that you'll see like an old Ford from like the 50s that someone's like fixed up, hasn't got power steering. The thing's an absolute death trap on wheels, and you'll see it rolling around on a Sunday, and that's about it.
And it's worth $400,000.
Sure.
Yeah. But
hasn't got airbags, but it's a good ride.
But look, I think Tesla have definitely done their part to basically change commuter or buying habits within the vehicle market.
Sure, they made electric vehicles sexy, right? Like the idea that an electric vehicle and a high performance vehicle could be the same thing. That was changed by Tesla, and I will give the founders of Tesla, which is not Elon Musk, credit for doing that. However, Elon Musk and his association with the company and the work practices and the things that they do at Tesla, the way they drive employees, very similar to the way they drive, the extremely hardcore version of Twitter that they had, that they mentioned when Elon took over there. It seems as though his success is predicated not as much on his brilliant technical mind or his extraordinary business achievements as much as it is like just being an absolute fucking slave driver to the people who work in his businesses and extracting as much from them as possible.
How good is the big fucking rocket though?
I do like a good rocket. So
how good is the rocket, George?
All is forgiven.
It's such a good rocket.
He's going to take us to Mars or sell us cryptocurrency. It's not quite clear yet.
Or both.
Or both.
It hasn't got really to orbit yet, but like it'll get there soon. So yeah, you know, if you don't go hard, if you don't try, then what's the point? You know?
Are you still an Elon stan? Are you still defending him, or?
I'm like, I've got a soft spot for him.
That pause means yes, ladies and gentlemen.
I got a soft spot for him.
Yeah, but can you understand where I come from though? Where I look at these things that he does and says, I'm like, your brain is broken. You bought the same company that is the one that broke your brain on social media.
I don't
nonsense.
think
like you are a parody of yourself.
Doing PR is probably what
that
I would say.
That is a very generous response.
By the same token,
very diplomatic.
It's his PR that generates a lot of the interest because there's all the Elon fanboys out there. So it's a double-edged sword.
He just keeps failing upwards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Into orbit with the big fucking rocket.
I don't know. If I started off with an emerald mine, I think I could have done pretty good as well. I don't know. I don't think he's as self-made as he makes out. And he goes on about government grants and go like, oh, you know, railing against government expenditure and woke diversity and whatever the fuck, you know, he's whinging about online. But it's like the whole reason Tesla was a success was because of carbon credits that they were able to sell from the Obama administration. They were able to sell carbon credits to other car makers who weren't making electric cars. And so that's where a lot of their early revenue came from and a lot of their success came from. It wasn't actually that they were selling highly profitable cars. It's that they made a lot of government money.
Well, they've never really sold highly profitable cars. I don't know what they
have turned a profit like in the last couple of years. They have turned a profit in some quarters, not others. Like, but yeah, it's not a highly profitable company. And yet, if you look at the stock price, it just goes up and to the right, makes all the tech nerds horny in terms of how much it fucking hockey sticks. They're just jerking off at this fucking, oh mate, that's a perfect fucking parabola. Who cares if the price to earnings ratio is 1,000 to 1? Elon's going to make it back. Oh, Elon, don't say my name, Elon. But if you actually look at the fundamentals of the company, like there are other companies out there that perform better given how much their stock is worth, right? Like
some might say that they are overcapitalized.
Yeah. On that note, I can't stand Elon. On that note, we have been, we are, we always will be Unnatural Selection. Make sure you visit us at our salubrious home on the web, unnaturalshow.com. Make sure you follow us on all the bullshit social medias that have, do, or ever will exist at Unnatural Show. That includes Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and yes, of course, Twitter at our handle at Unnatural Show. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at George Tsipos. You can follow Tom.
You can follow me
at Tom D. Heath. Sorry, go on.
That's okay. I mean, you know, you can't follow me anywhere online, but you can follow me down to Armidale, to the APVMA, where I'll be applying for a job and urinating on another staff member to see how that goes.
You got to get the job first, and then you can piss on staff members.
Oh, that's what I mean. I'll be applying for the job, and then I don't know. Maybe it's an audition. Maybe it's like a thing you do to get the job. It's like, how can I prove my loyalty to you?
You're hired. You got balls. I like balls. Yeah, maybe. It sounds like a party office. That's for sure.
I love a party office. I'm all about it. Kegs on tap. Let's go.
Kegs on the regs. Thanks for listening, guys.
Kegs are generally on tap, but you know what I mean.
That is the mechanism of what a keg is. Yeah.
Yeah.